Hello, everybody. I'm Dan McDermott. This is Google Plus Week, our unofficial look at the world's coolest social network. Joining me is Silicon Valley tech writer Mike Elgan. Mike, thanks so much for being with us tonight. How are you doing over there?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you write for a number of publications. You write about technology and culture. Give us a little bio there.
I started out in newspaper journalism, moved into computer journalism, edited Windows Magazine during the 90s, a couple of other publications in the 2000s, and ended up following my lifelong dream to be a full-time opinion writer, editorialist type person. So that's all I do now. I write opinions either for computer technology type publications or for blogs. And that's what I do. I wax eloquent, hopefully, with opinions about technology and culture.
Now, you're not afraid. You mix it up sometimes, right? I mean, you definitely offer your opinion. A lot of your stuff is informative, and I always enjoy it. I think in one of the posts I said the always interesting and occasionally controversial. You don't have one thing like me. You don't have a lot of patience for these guys who don't know anything about Google Plus and trash it. I know you've seen that.
Well,
I guess that's getting better now, right? Now that the numbers are coming in and looking a bit rosier than it seemed at first.
well, the thing that I don't like is bad argumentation, and there's a lot of that about Google Plus and about a bunch of other things too. But I spend all my time. I'm on the Google Plus diet, so I don't really use any other social networks or anything. I've given up 24 other social networks in order to go full time on Google Plus. And as a result of that, I'm really familiar with how it works, and I think a lot of us are very familiar with how it works. And a lot of the critics, I have nothing against people who don't like it for whatever reason, but when critics argue against Google Plus in one way or another with bad facts or bad arguments, it's just low-hanging fruit and easy picking to argue back. So I like to do that, and there's so much to go around that it's almost a full-time job arguing with the ill-informed.
Yeah, the classic for me was that idiotic headline, "Can the Muppets save Google Plus?" And I was just like, oh
Yeah.
man. But anyway, one of the things I've had trouble with is when my mom said, "Tell me about Google Plus," and I had to explain what it was.
Hmm.
It's not like Twitter. It's not a Facebook killer. It's a whole different thing. It's I guess you describe it as an extremely versatile
Hmm.
network, or I don't even know what you call it, a network. What is it? I mean, it's a blogging platform. It's a sharing platform. It's an aggregating platform. It's social. It's got so many things. Go into that a little bit about the just the general versatility of the product. It's amazing.
Well, technically, social network is a good description for what Google Plus is. Unfortunately, our understanding, the public's understanding about what a social network is, has been colored by Facebook.
Right.
So it's not a social network in the way that Facebook is a social network. Facebook is a very particular and peculiar type of social network. They've become better as a result of competition with Google Plus. They quickly scramble to add something that's roughly equivalent to Circles, for example. They have subscriptions now and a bunch of things like that. Um, but really, Google Plus is an all-purpose platform for communicating with people and even communicating with yourself. And I'll go into that in a second. The main way that I use Google Plus personally is as a blog. Probably 95% of my activity is I just do a blog. I publish a blog. I've been blogging since the beginning of blogging. And in fact, did something that was similar to blogging before blogging existed, before blogging, dedicated blogging software existed. I've had email newsletters and things like that. And my blog was called The Raw Feed. It was a successful blog. I had a great time with it. It was awesome in every way. And I gave it up to move to Google Plus as an experiment. The experiment succeeded so much that I made it permanent rather than temporary. And so that's what I do. I blog primarily. And so how do you blog on Google Plus? You simply post public comments. That is a blog. It's exactly like a blog in the sense that it's words, a headline, uh, pictures, links, all the basic components, followed by comments. And it's unlike other blogs though, because you can't customize the look and feel of it. There isn't real the kind of archiving functions where it's like, well, here's everything I posted in February of 2008. over here. That doesn't exist in Google Plus. As an alternative, it has better search than blogs tend to. So you gain some and you lose some when you switch from a regular blog to Google Plus. But mostly what you gain is better conversations and a better and bigger audience. You can't find a better audience for a blog anywhere on the internet. You will never get the kind of incredible community on an external blog that you can get on Google Plus.
I found the same thing. It's amazing the quality of the intellectual. I think this was best demonstrated early on by MySpace Tom Anderson's now famous post where he put the same thing on Facebook and Google Plus, and on one it was these intelligent, interesting responses, and the other one was like, lols, marry me, I love you, Tom, what have you. There was a little controversy recently about Search Plus Your World, where they've introduced some of the social features into Google, and the hit on that is that they're not including the competitive services, and they're saying, well, we don't have access to Facebook's pipe, and we had but no longer have access at Twitter's request to their pipe. And my thinking is that it's their site. I'm not going to tell you that because your blog is you have 400,000 or however many hundreds of thousands of followers, and I've got about 10,000. So because you are like a monopoly to me, that you're required to include my stuff on your stream, that's ludicrous, right? And it's not a monopoly. I mean, you can Bing, right? So what are your thoughts on this whole controversy?
Google would absolutely include all data from Facebook and Twitter if it could do so without charge, without paying them. All social networks, including Google Plus, are for the most part part of what you call the invisible web. The majority of the web is not indexable with search engines. Probably 85% of what is posted on the web in the form of intranets, in the form of government and military sites, in the form of all these things, they're not accessible to Google's or Bing's or any other search engine's spiders. It's part of the invisible web. Facebook, Twitter, Google+, all the social networks are part of the invisible web. They're not part of the public internet. Now, Google can index everything that's public, that's not part of the invisible web. Plus, it can index parts of the invisible web that it has business deals, business arrangements to get permission and access from the owners of those invisible websites. And so that's what this is about. This is not about Google excluding Facebook and Twitter. First of all, Google is excluding hundreds of social networks. Google is excluding all of the invisible web social networks, which is pretty much all the social networks. And Bing and the other search engines are excluding Google+. Again, it's an invisible web issue. And so when Twitter makes the claim, people seem to believe that Twitter's complaint is, you won't index us and show us on search. That's not what their complaint is. Their complaint is, you didn't accept our business terms for a deal.
Right.
So when they had a deal last year, Twitter, the deal fell apart when Twitter demanded double the price and a huge chunk of the ad revenue that Google was getting. So
that second part's the key, right? Because $30 million to Google's nothing. I mean, they feed, they eat that, literally eat that in their cafeterias a year. But the advertising revenue and the precedent that would set. So is it just a negotiating tactic that eventually they'll cave and they'll get in? Because really, Google wants to promote its social network, but it also wants to have the most relevant search engine, or it opens up to competition from Bing or somebody to get stronger.
Business negotiations are about political power to a certain extent. And Google Plus has a low incentive to pay people to let Google index their content, because Google is the #1 search engine. Microsoft has a huge incentive to pay people. That's why they paid Facebook $1 billion something or other to become part owner of Facebook. Microsoft owns 1.6% of Facebook. And has a huge incentive to pay Twitter a lot of money to index Twitter tweets because it's the underdog. Microsoft has deep pockets and aspirations for search engine glory, and so they pay more than Google does. Google is under no obligation to to compete in a bidding war against Microsoft because Google was already in the driver's seat in terms of search engine revenue. The bottom line is that including other social network data is an issue of business deals, not of excluding for other reasons. The other part of this that people have to understand is that now that Google Plus exists, Google's incentive to make those deals is way down. It already has brilliant social signals that improve search now. It doesn't need Twitter anymore to have good social signals. It doesn't need Facebook to have good social signals. It doesn't need Facebook or Twitter. I mean, this is the thing. This whole thing is a huge win for Google, and it's a win for users as well, I think. I mean, Google Search plus your world is simply the full integration of social data, including permissions data. That's the part of this that is difficult for social networks to give up to search engines, is a permission. So if I post if somebody shares a picture just with me and nobody else in the world, and then I go and search the public Google search engine, that picture can show up just for me because I have permission. Google knows I have permission, knows who I am, and knows who it's shared with, all that stuff. So this is quite an awesome thing. Now, the most persuasive argument against Google Plus Your World, I think, has been made by Danny Sullivan, who said that it's an unfair treatment and counter to Google's traditional role of being an unbiased, neutral provider of search results. And it gave an example of if you do a search for something and some of the results are video results and some of the results are social results. Both Google's own YouTube and Google's own Google Plus are now dominant in the results that you get when you search for something that has video and social hits. But his point is that YouTube earned its prominent position because YouTube, in fact, is almost always the number one source for videos, whereas Google Plus is not. And you give an example, like I wrote a column recently where I gave the example of Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is, in terms of Lady Gaga videos, YouTube is the place for that. That should be the number one result. But Lady Gaga on Google Plus shouldn't be the number one result in terms of social signals. She's much bigger on Facebook. She's much bigger on Twitter. She has her own website and stuff like that. But if you look on the right side of a search, you're likely to see Lady Gaga's Google Plus page and not the Facebook page.
You're right about political power, and I remember early in the day, Yahoo would charge you if you wanted to get in their list quicker. You could pay, I think it was $200 to get listed in the Yahoo search engine. That's before I even ever heard of Google.
Right.
It's a lot like cable companies and TV networks. When Fox News first started, they paid cable networks to run them, and now they're popular, and now they get paid by the cable. It's the power shifts as one becomes more popular. Is it it is or is not a bum rap? I mean, is Google?
It isn't. I mean, Danny Sullivan's argument is an apple to oranges argument. YouTube is in a category of sites that it does not involve the invisible web. Google Plus is in a category of sites that is entirely made up of sites in the invisible web. So in order for social networks, the 200, 300, 400 significant social networks in the world, to have an equal footing with Google Plus, Google would have to do business deals every year with those hundreds of sites, and that's not going to happen. That's absolutely, and it's not necessary, because Google has excellent social signals already from Google Plus. That's just how it is.
Let me bring in Jeff and then Alan. Jeff, you had something?
Yeah, I had a quick question. What do you think is going to happen when Facebook goes public and there's going to be more pressure for that intertwining between the social networks because it's going to be revenue driven? Do you think it's going to make a difference in how social network starts interacting?
I don't think there's going to be an incentive. I don't think there will ever be an incentive, a significant or sufficient incentive for Facebook and Google to make a deal, for Facebook to have the real-time data and also the permissions as part of Google search. I just don't see those incentives ever existing. Microsoft is against it because they like the exclusivity of the Facebook content that they get. So, the part owner of the site doesn't like it. And really Facebook is not interested in, Google represents the larger internet, the larger web. And
Right.
Facebook wants to be an alternative to the larger web. They're like the AOL of our generation. They want to be this sandbox where you have an environment that you live in, and then you go out occasionally into the real internet if necessary to get various content. So Facebook doesn't have the incentive, and Google doesn't have the incentive, and Microsoft doesn't have the incentive. Nobody has the incentive. So I don't think those deals are ever going to be made.
Alan, you had something?
Yeah, I think one of the arguments that I saw that Danny was making wasn't just that Google wasn't able to get into the darker portions of the web. It's that the portions that it did have access to, it still didn't treat preferentially, or it still didn't treat in the same class.
Well,
so
again,
that,
his example.
so that when it could identify a particular user, for example, at Twitter, it was still just treating that as part of the search results, not as part of the social aspect of the search results.
His argument, the way he expressed his argument is that, back to, I don't think he used Lady, I'm not sure what celebrity he used.
He used the same one that Twitter used, which was WWE.
Okay, I mean, the argument that I heard was that it doesn't make sense for, like, if you search for Britney Spears, for you to get her Google Plus page, because on her profile, she lists, here's my Twitter page, here's my Facebook page. So his point is that Google has access to knowledge about, without permission from Twitter and Facebook, it has knowledge about where her other social activities are. But that argument doesn't scale on multiple levels. So first of all, not everybody puts their alternative social sites. Not everybody is truthful about what their social. Google has no way to verify. I could go in and put Britney Spears' Facebook page and say it's my Facebook page, and what ability does Google have to know if that's in fact the case? It's not a regular indexable type of piece of information. It's simply a claim that some people are making. The result of that would be if Google tried to hold up as theoretical equals on search results everything it knows from Google Plus with everything it knows from Twitter and everything it knows from Facebook, it would be even more conspicuous about how much it favored Google Plus, because it knows very little, in fact, about everything that it knows about people's activities on Twitter and Facebook is a tiny microscopic percentage of what it knows about people's activity on Google Plus. So Google Plus would still completely dominate, and it would, Google would be accused of all kinds of things. It's much better, I think. I agree with Google's current policy, which is like, we don't have the real access, so it's not there. Let's back up for a second. In actual search results, in the main part of the search results, it can divine certain activities and things posted on both Facebook and to an even greater extent Twitter. Many of the searches you find, if you do 10 searches, several of them will have Twitter results that are higher than Google Plus results. On the very top of the new search results, you have the social things, and that's all Google Plus. And on the right, if there's anything there, that's all Google Plus. And the identification of tagged photos in the photo thing, that's all Google Plus, where it says you or it says the name of the person. And so in those areas, it's 100% Google Plus, and people know that. It's almost like an ad. Like, I know what that is. That's Google Plus results. If they tried to say, okay, this is all the social results, 95% of the data would still be Google Plus, and you'd be like, oh, they're cheating here. They're like, they're skewing it toward them, even though they say that it's all the thing. Forget all that. Let everybody know that's just Google Plus results, and then the middle part is everybody. I think it's a good solution. I also think everybody will get used to it and stop complaining about it, because these results improve search. They improve the results that you get.
Do you think that the federal investigations and this alleged antitrust in Google in general, I mean, I was kind of surprised that they did this at this time, but I guess they're always under investigation. Anytime you're a big company and you have enemies because of your success, if you can't compete, litigate.
In general, the charges against them are that they favor their own services in search results. This was an existing investigation. That's all they're doing is looking at it, and this is a reasonable investigation. If you're a service, if you're a video service and you compete against YouTube, and you're frustrated that when somebody searches for something, the YouTube result comes higher. So is YouTube more prominent in search because it's a more prominent site, or is it a more prominent site because it comes higher in search? I understand how many companies would complain to the government about cheating because those algorithms are invisible. We don't have access. We can't just look at them and see that it's fair. Google may or may not be able to demonstrate that. I certainly don't have any idea what the ability is there, but that complaint already existed. Now along comes Google Plus, and it appears to do that. It appears to be something that even government lawyers can understand, which is the concept of bundling. The big Microsoft antitrust case of the 90s and early 2000s was that they bundled Internet Explorer browser with Windows. They used their dominance in Windows, their monopoly in Windows, to force you to use Internet Explorer browser. Now, the reason this case on its face is entirely different is because Microsoft had 90 to 92% market share in PC operating systems. Google has 65% or so and declining percentage share in search. So it's not. I don't think there's any case where a 65% market share has been deemed monopoly. Secondly, the lock-in, the ability to prevent people from switching to an alternative provider is non-existent. You type the word Bing and you have switched. There is no barrier to switching, and so the traditional legal criteria for monopoly and antitrust behaviors simply don't exist. Even if you accept the false argument that Google is bundling one of its services to the exclusion of other services. So the antitrust portion of this is laughable and is going to be thrown out.
I agree, and I think there is always room for competition. Obviously, they're the incumbent, and the incumbent has the advantage, but Google is not perfect. There are many times I'm trying to find something, and you've got to craft a carefully worded, because you're getting the wrong thing. And if someone came up with a better algorithm, it would catch on quickly, but you wouldn't have all the services built in. So we'll always be around with Google. I want to ask you real quick on the Megaupload thing, what your thoughts are, since we're talking about video sites. It first came out, and I always thought of it as a place where you could get illegal stuff. I mean, blatant copyright stuff. And what it tells me is, especially if you read the indictment, or at least the summary. I think Gigaom had a really good summary of the facts in the indictment, that some of the emails that were shared back and forth, that they knew what they were doing, and I guess the thing to me is, as we've just seen SOPA and PIPA die, with all four Republican candidates and the President of the United States all saying, his people saying that they're not happy with it. And the support on ProPublica, I'm sure you've seen that chart. It showed the supporters of SOPA, PIPA, and the opponents. The 17th of January, and then on the 18th of January, after the blackout, it completely reversed. It was like this, and then it went like this. So it tells me that the existing laws can work, and that the Megaupload thing does. That we don't need sweeping new regulations, and it tells me that really this is something for the international courts, or perhaps the very ineffective but potentially effective UN on something like this, or for Hillary Clinton to go out there. Because why allow something to exist overseas and then try to block our access to it, when the simpler approach, in my opinion, will be to negotiate with China to get them to enforce the law in China, rather than try to bring China internet policy to the United States. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that this whole crackdown on mega uploads is another example of what we've seen for years. It's in those cases where you can go after the person or the company or the group, or this is kind of like I don't know, Napster or any of the file sharing networks that people have cracked down on before, and then they pop up in the Netherlands and wherever. There's always this cat and mouse game. This is more along the lines of that type of law enforcement, which is very different from SOPA and PIPA, which is an entirely different thing. That's essentially where a website that is simply a conduit for communication, where somebody happens to do something that somebody complains about gets shut down. That's an entirely different thing. So I don't know. I'm not. Frankly, I don't find the whole thing that interesting. There are a lot of people up in arms about it, but it's just another one of those things, and I think we all kind of saw it coming. Not helping the fact is that the founder of the site is a pretty colorful character with who's done a lot of bragging, and it's been a pretty interesting sideshow. But I don't think it's surprising. I don't think it's a horrible thing. I don't think it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just back to the old cat and mouse game.
I want to move on, but one last thing on SOPA PIPA. Is it a fair critique to say that if the industry, including Google, had, or if they were doing a better job at self-policing this stuff, that this kind of thing would never have come up? It wouldn't have been necessary.
No,
because
not
they
at
do.
all.
I mean, they prevent a lot of stuff. Some offensive stuff. I mean, do you think they could do a better job at keeping these things out, or do you think it's not their deal?
I don't think that's their job. I mean, they will have to do it to a certain extent. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of how much intervention companies do to make their content. I mean, in the case of Google does it pretty much just right. I think in general they go after the super illegal stuff, child pornography and stuff like that, but they try not to impose their own personal values. They try to not allow people to break the law. But unlike Apple, which Apple just goes in there and says, okay, well, we don't like this. It's in poor taste, so we're going to pull it from the App Store. So, every company that's a conduit for content is in a position of, there's a spectrum of like everything from illegal to don't like it. And, you have to find that middle ground. But I think the much more interesting thing about Google and Wikipedia and all this stuff is that we've just seen an example of the incredible power of the internet to affect political change. The only reason they weren't running scared on this one, the government, the Congress, is because there was unity. It was Rupert Murdoch on one side and everybody else on the other side. And the U.S. Congress, the U.S. government is no match for a unified internet. The internet, we're talking about, people. When the public is united against something and has the power of the internet on its side, it can make the government do anything it wants to. The trick is to get unanimity, because on almost every other issue, people are going to be divided.
Exactly.
Yeah, but this was a breathtaking example of what's possible.
It was an amazing 24-hour turnaround. I mean, it was starting to build against him, but yeah, that was pretty amazing. The White House, speaking of politicians, the White House just started a Google Plus page, and that was obviously, I'm surprised they hadn't until now. And I'm
the snow melted in Seattle immediately.
Do what?
They launched it this morning, and then we had all this snow, and it just melted the same day.
It's because of the White House.
Well, yeah, it's a joke.
Okay, here's my question. My observation is that one of the things that they said they're going to do is utilize Hangouts with, and of course I'll have Hangouts on air and the whole deal. And they're going to stream the Hangouts on whitehouse.gov, and it'll be an opportunity for citizens to ask questions and hang out with various officials of the administration. I think this is fantastic for so many reasons. Obviously, it's exciting for Google, and it'll be great publicity for Google Plus Hangouts to have them on the White House. It'll force the media to cover it, And this brings up this whole thing that I've been harping on, and now you've been harping on, that Hangouts are a whole new medium. It's not just video conferencing, it is. But what started as this little way for people in different locations to have a social setting, like a coffee table, it's grown so much. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on Hangouts as like a whole new medium.
Yeah, well, there's something mysterious about media, and it's something I always ask people because I can never find an answer to this. But there's something about the way different media are that favors one type of communication over another, that favors one kind of personality type over another. You talk about the personalities that have popped up on Google Plus, like Daria Musk and stuff like that. Well, some people are just perfect for one medium. Kennedy was perfect for television and won the election because he looked better on television than Richard Nixon, for example. I mean, every new medium has a new set of communication styles, personalities, and all this kind of stuff. And it turns out that Google Plus Hangouts is an entirely new medium. It's a new medium like radio is a new medium from the newspaper, or television is a new medium, was a new medium when we had radio. And the characteristics of it, and I think that the important thing for people to realize is that the assumption is, okay, it's video conferencing. It's just like video conferencing, but you have more people. But there's way more to it than that makes it a different medium. It's social. It's multi-user, of course. It's live streamable. Now, only some of us have Hangouts on-air capability. I think in the future we all will. So I think we can assume that in the long term it's going to be live streamable. It's archivable. It's automatically archived on YouTube. It's launchable from text-based conversations. You could be chatting with somebody in a conversation. You're like, you know what, let's talk about this. Boom, push a button and you're talking face-to-face. A lot of people don't do that, but they should do it. It's a new behavior that Hangouts enables, and they should be doing it. It's free and unlimited. People are limiting themselves. If you have an animal that's grown up in a cage and you take the cage out into the wild and you open the cage door, it will stay in the cage. And that's what people are doing with Hangouts. They're thinking, well, I got to keep it to 15 minutes. Or if I'm having a hangout with somebody, I need to be constantly engaged and keep talking and never stop talking because I'm doing a hangout. Well, no, you can leave it running for weeks. You can have a hangout that never ends. You can open up a hangout and not talk to people. I call them ambient hangouts, where you can just have an open door and anybody can wander in, say, how's it going? It's just like being in the same room. And the characteristic that enables that is that it's free of charge and it's completely unlimited. It's global, it's persistent, it supports phone calls. You can patch in people on the phone. It can be done from a mobile device, so you can be anywhere. It's moderatable. You can kick people off if they're being hecklers or annoying or profane or offensive. And it supports collaborative work. If you combine Hangouts with the circles and the use of Google Plus, this is I guess they used to call it groupware, but this is way better than anything the business groupware people ever thought of. Go back and forth, in and out of conversations, of posting things, interacting with media. Here's a whiteboard. Let's collaborate on this document. Okay, now here's a video, and then let's chat about it for a while, and I'm going to leave. I started the Hangout, and then I can leave, and the Hangout continues to live. I mean, the possibilities and the flexibility are endless, and it's a completely new medium. And we're this show, for example, what you're doing right now, this is not possible in any other medium. Not exactly like this.
Well,
yeah, it's definitely different.
There were other iterations of this type of stuff, though. I think like Tiny Chat had this video chat rooms that you could enter in and have like up to 8 people in there and things like that. But
who used it?
You're doing it well, dude. This is perfect.
Well, that's the big difference, exactly. Is that Google has the power, so people use it. It's just the whole thing with this White House thing is, to me, it's a little bit comical because, if Obama wanted to have a public forum, it would be a heck of a lot more than, you can have it with a lot more than 10 people at a time, which is not what Google Hangouts allow. And he can certainly have, millions of people watching and participating if he so chose. So the whole thing with him entering the Hangouts realm is a little bit, like I said, to me personally, it's comical. Maybe it's because I'm a different political affiliation.
I don't think it's like, I don't think they're seeing it that way, Oleg. I think they're seeing either a hand-selected group, sort of like when the Dalai Lama came on. It wasn't just a random open to anybody hangout. It's a way for them to get 5 or 6 people hand-selected, or maybe several experts together to have a debate or discussion or an informative type thing and stream it. Maybe they would pre-select, like the NewsHour just did a thing. Say we're going to have.
I would be of a more favorable opinion on the subject if he actually started as soon as they launched it. When they started doing Hangouts or Hangouts on air, I would say, yeah, that's cool. They're keeping up with technology, very nice. This way, he appears to be late. It's not like they don't know that this thing exists, or they better know. I mean, his team. And so I just question the timing of it in terms of, we already had Hangouts for all this time. All of a sudden, now they start this page, and they're going to start doing Hangouts like it's some brand new thing, which of course it isn't. And like I said, he can only talk to 10 people at a time. And he's certainly not going to have Hangouts lasting for weeks.
I don't think he's going to do it, although he did that really ghetto web thing a week or so ago that was just a failure. But okay, Alan, you had something you wanted to...
Yeah, let me start by saying, Mike, that I was incredibly fortunate to see the first of your flying Hangouts, your flying circle Hangouts, while it was being recorded and before it vanished off into the ether. I was very fortunate to see that, and I really liked where you were going with it, where you presented this topic of yours. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that you kind of touched on there, and you kind of touched on it just now, is that in any new medium, the first thing you do is you start imitating the old medium.
Yeah.
And you then have to sort of feel your way for what's new, what's changed, and at the same time also figure out what technology you still need.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to ask you, what do you think Hangouts still need to take it to fulfill what your vision of them is, and what I think a lot of people's vision of them is?
Well, I think that, and that's a really great question, because it's something that I think people need to think about a lot more. One of the things I think people need to do is take Hangouts outside and in random places. And you can do that. You can't. Don't think you can launch a Hangout from a mobile device yet.
You can.
You can now.
On Android now. Okay. Yeah. So. But not a Hangout on air, right?
No.
Hangout on air has to be a browser. So I think that I would love to see people, when they're out and about, in interesting places. You're at they're at their university, and Prince William or whatever shows up, and there's a bunch of people. Pull out the phone and launch a Hangout. Like, people need to get in that habit of being, I guess, the larger categorical change people need to make is they need to be much more casual about it, much more promiscuous with it, much more free to use it, and just people should be launching Hangouts left and right in every circumstance for any reason whatsoever, and just get used to treating Hangouts like real life interaction. You just want to ask somebody something, boom, click a button, invite them to a Hangout, ask them, hang up, or whatever. Or you're at the beach and like somebody else is in the snow, and then launch a Hangout and just have fun with it. I think people need to relax about it. Don't be shy. Don't think there are any barriers. There are no barriers at all. And people need to really run with
I don't know if
your point there is actually kind of interesting, because it's something that came up there. That you asked, you asked the group, what are the psychological barriers to Hangouts?
Mm-hmm.
And you asked why not keep it running. And one of the things that you asked everyone was, how did they get started? Were you scared? And I found it very interesting that almost everyone in the group said that they were coming at it from, they were a social, they were very social. They had been in IRC chats, or they had been in similar stuff, so they were very comfortable doing this sort of thing. And I was sitting there kind of surprised, because I joined Hangouts for the exact opposite reason.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a social person.
Yeah.
I am very private and reserved.
Yeah.
And I started Hangouts with people who I already knew, and from there joined shows like Dan, and then from there the wider Hangout community.
Yeah. And I think that your case should be the more common case. I mean, that's the beauty of it. It's not just for people who, people are either like super outgoing and or they're more inward looking. I tend to be a more inward looking person as well, and I think that Hangouts is great for people who are not. I hate going to nightclubs and stuff like that. I hate concerts and all that kind of stuff. But I love to have good conversations with people, and so Google Plus Hangouts is a great thing for having conversations. And I think the way people should look at it is let's look at a previous example of a communications medium that people used to be very uptight about and got relaxed about, and that is the telephone. When I was a kid, back in the a long distance call was a huge deal. Oh my God, it's long distance. You have to come sprinting to the phone because it's long distance. They're calling from the other side of the county or something like that. And it was like this big thing. And then he was like, hello, this is long. And people would shout into the phone. And a phone call, especially a long distance phone call, especially an international phone call, was a really, really big deal. Part of the reason was it was expensive, but it was a big deal. It felt like, the biggest event of the day. Nowadays, people pick up the phone and, sometimes I call somebody who's in my own house just because I don't feel like going up the stairs or something like that. We're so casual about making phone calls now. So we made this cultural transition from phone calls as a huge deal to phone calls are a bodily function. And I would love to see Hangouts become a bodily function for
people. But to be honest, Mike, I think there's some, I appreciate what you're saying. But at the same time, I think there are some definite barriers. It's not as simple as just getting over your habits, I think, because number one, people who are social are going to be social no matter where. They're just going to be social. So I don't think it's a big deal. And Alan, talking about being an introvert, he's not as much an introvert as he claims. So he's...
I'm much more an introvert than I claim.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Fine. But what I was going to say was this, that when you're in an environment, like you just pointed out before the show, you went to Vegas, not Vegas, but doing stuff from CES, people couldn't do it. It's not because they were shy to start a Hangout, it just was physically impossible to make it work. So that's one problem.
Well, I think on that one, that's similar to the long distance telephone.
It's a barrier, Alan. It's a barrier.
Well,
it's a physical barrier.
Of course, it's a barrier, but I think it's equivalent to the long distance telephone barrier. Over time, and hopefully over a very rapid time,
that was more psychological barrier. This is a physical barrier.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
I'm agreeing with you, Oleg. I know this is tough to understand, but I'm agreeing with you.
Next topic is not topic, but next point I was going to make was when you're out and about somewhere and you want to start a Hangout, you could. You're right. You can do it from a mobile. You could, but again, looking at the physical limitations, you need to be looking at these people somehow. Mm-hmm. It's not like with the phone where you're basically walking. You need to be looking at people so you can talk to them.
No, you don't.
But you hear.
Okay, just 1 second. Second thing is you need to be able to hear these people, right?
No, you don't.
No, but don't you, do you want to be part of the conversation? Or
you don't.
No. Here's where I disagree with both of you guys. I think if you're out at a place, you can have a conversation with the person next to you. You don't have to actually have a Hangout, right? When I used to travel a lot, I would be in the airport. I would talk to whoever would listen to me, right? So because I wanted to pass the time. How sad is that? But that's what you tend to do when you're in situations. So you don't have to physically form a Hangout when you're at a coffee shop. You can actually talk to the next person in the next stool next to you, kind of thing.
But that's when you talk to strangers in the airport, you're doing that because there's a limitation that prevents you from speaking to the people that you would rather talk to. So there's a hierarchy of people in your life, and those people in the airport are pretty close to the bottom. You've got your family and your loved ones and your friends and stuff like that, who you'd talk to if they were there. If you're in the airport with your spouse or with your one of your kids or something like that, who do you talk to? You talk to the person who you're close to for the most part. And something like Hangouts enables you to do that when you're not in the same place. Now back to the point about back to Oleg's point, you don't have to talk, you don't have to see, you don't have to hear. You have to do one of those things to have a connection, or in one case it can go one way. For example, I did some ambient Hangouts over the holidays where the camera was just running, and nobody was really paying attention to the camera, and people could come and go, and there was a little bit of activity, a few conversations, but for the most part, it's just a window across time and space.
Right. Yesterday I had the snow
That's
hangout.
all it is.
I put a camera against the window and I left because I had to work. And just a few people came in on their own. I don't even know what they did, but they were looking at snow falling in Seattle. So that's kind of environment you're talking about.
Exactly. That's exactly what more people should do.
Right. But I'm talking about, or if you're going, let's say you're going to a museum, like this one guy went to Guggenheim, and he just had the hangout where all these people basically kind of worked with him. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's great. But I'm talking about when, for example, a guy that was going to, there's one gentleman, I can't remember his name, but I think he's a French guy. But he built a little device where the camera is in front of him. And so you can actually see him, and then he's got the whole situation where when he's walking, he doesn't have to hold anything. It's like a body computer type deal, and he's wearing it, and he can talk to people, and just like we're talking right now, sitting, he does the same thing walking. Now we're talking about being able to do it. But if you don't have one of these devices, I just don't see how you can physically make it work.
Oleg, I remember, Mike, I remember your Hangout, the famous Lost Hangout that Alan was referring to about Hangouts. You had an incredible idea. I don't know if it was your idea, but it was about doing a Shakespearean play and putting a phone on each actor. And do a giant hangout so people could choose from which vantage point to observe the play in a hangout. Or
they would see them all at once.
Right, they'd see them all at once, and they could choose which click, on the bottom, just like I can click between you guys. And just as an odd observation, we got to get a central chat room because someone has just started a hangout to discuss this hangout. He said, if you want to discuss this hangout in the chat, come to this hangout and silence your mic, and they're all listening, and they're just using it as a central chat room. Talk about a neat workaround. That's great. That's funny.
What a compliment. Google opens it up. I mean, wait till it's more than 10 people. I mean, that's coming around the corner. So
let me, Alan. We were in the same hangout. I wanted to address a couple things on that. What he's saying? They said that they felt the social barrier was about 10, the max, right? And then the other thing that they said that we learned, when you get to Hangouts with extras, it says try these for a limited time. And we were all wondering, does that mean at some point they're going to charge for these extras? That's not the case. In fact, it is the testing ground. And then when something is working and they like it and it's functional, then they'll promote it from Hangouts with extras to the regular Hangout. So that's what that means when they say try it for a limited time. But Alan, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think part of that is, they had started by determining 10 is a good number, and I think some of the usability studies they found say that 10 is a fairly usable number.
Right.
But that also goes into part of the question that sparked this line is, would you like to see a tool that lets you adjust how many people are in from 2 to 10, 15, whatever, some reasonable max number that you could set? What are the other tools that you see needing to come about? We've talked in the past about how Hangouts are now acting kind of like a virtual control room, an automatic control room. What are the other kinds of controls that you would like to see your automatic control room doing for you? And what are the little tweaks that you'd like to be able to do yourself and convince the control room, no, really focus on this guy right now, or boost the volume on this guy right now? What other tools along those lines would you like to see in the Hangout? And I should preface it by saying I come at this from a developer, not a developer. I'm not on the Hangouts team, but I think of it from a developer point of view. What do we need to be telling the Hangout team? Look, here's what we need. Here's how we take Hangouts to the next level.
Well, I think it all depends on how you want to, if you're using it as a business tool or as a social tool, right? So I think there's two different things.
Well, I think it's much more than just two different things. I think there are a range of things.
If I was running a seminar, I would have something where a person had to raise their hand to be recognized, and I would click on that, and then that would enable all the features for that person. So you'd had a logical way of controlling a discussion or a presentation. So I think that would be important from a business aspect. That's how I would want to handle it. I wouldn't want just pure chaos, everyone talking when I'm trying to do something, when I'm trying to teach or whatever. So I think that would be a different kind of thing, a different kind of useful tool from my perspective. And
There's there were a lot of suggestions on how to do it, and again, it's amazing how this thing has gone from I guess it was a crazy idea from Sergey, right, Mike? This Hangout thing, and it was just social, and now I'm using it to produce this show, and all sorts of people. I mean, Daria Musk uses it for music and all sorts of crazy things. I mean, people cooking and
you recently interviewed Sarah Hill, and when I did my CES Hangout, we did this high wire act where she had a live Hangout going that included, we're essentially daisy chaining Hangouts. So she was simultaneously doing a live newscast. She had a live Hangout going that was on the newscast, and she also was doing my Hangout. So she had 3 cameras on her, and 10 minutes into my Hangout, she chimed in, interviewed the whole panel for 5 minutes, chimed out, and the whole time, even when she wasn't interviewing us, we could see her Hangout going on in one of the. I mean, it was just insane. It was like some kind of sci-fi movie or something. The many
it's
circles.
Cool. It's cool how she does it because I mean she's got her the IFB in her ear, and then she's got the Hangout in the other ear, and she's doing the news, and it's neat, how she does it. And then she'll make a mistake, and she'll go in the Hangouts like, oh man, I mispronounced that. Did you see it? And they'll all laugh, and then she's back up, and another news tonight. It's really cool how she does it. I think it's so neat.
So Mike, going back to the question, using your approach, I just was wondering how you see this happening. So if you have a bunch of people starting Hangouts from anywhere, work, play, anywhere, how do you see this being functionally useful to people in terms of being to jump in, when you see that there's 10,000 Hangouts going, how do you see people participating in that in any kind of meaningful way?
So let's back up a bit and look at the very big picture. Human beings are not evolving particularly quickly, and technology is evolving very quickly. And we're hardwired to be completely tuned in to people's faces, to their voices, to their body language and hand gestures. It's ancient, and it's very satisfying to us. We love to talk to people. Our brains, a huge percentage of our brains, are specially designed to interpret and to communicate with people in a face-to-face form of communication. Now, we've gone way outside of that with the written word, with email, with all these things. But Hangouts brings us back to what we were fundamentally designed to do, which is communicate with other human beings, see their faces, hear their voices, see their body language, see their environment, all those things. But it's electronically mediated. So in all the cases where you would prefer to have somebody in the room with you, the next best thing is to have a Hangout with that person. And when there are 4 or 5 or 8 people who you would all love to have in the same room for whatever reason, you can simulate that with Hangouts. I can imagine, so here's just one small example. Let's say you have a high school Spanish class in the Midwest, and in Mexico you have a high school English class. Why shouldn't those classes have a Hangout running during every class, where the students can see each other, during breaks they can chat with each other in pick a language, why not? Why not? It's free. You can connect all these people who, on the one hand, you have people who would prefer to be connected with each other. And now on the other hand, you have a free, unlimited tool that connects them. And the only reason those two facts are not connected into actual behavior is that people have habits, and they're not breaking those habits. They're not changing their point of view about how things can work. And I think that I think how it's probably going to evolve is that young people are going to be very familiar with these tools, and they're going to just have video cameras running all the time, and Hangouts going all the time. And it's not just going to be Hangouts. I think that eventually there will be other media that do what Hangouts do. Facebook eventually will come around, and so on. But the ability to just have casual conversation. I mean, not when I'm talking to you guys, it's not just that I hear your voices and see your faces. I see your facial expressions. I can read whether you're interested, not interested, whether you're when you light up about something or you have some, I can see when you want to say something, but it's more than that. I see your environment. I see where you are. And even though it's not a whole lot of data, I have a psychological satisfaction of feeling like I'm in the same room, and that's the difference. In the old kind of social networking, the relationships weren't real; they were simulated relationships. What's happening on Google Plus is people are actually forming real relationships. The psychology.
The way
going back to, sorry, Alan.
No, the way you started it reminded me of kind of a conversation I had with somebody else, and I think it's Danny Sullivan, but I can't find my conversation with him at the time. Google, one of the features they announced this week was recording a video message and having it as your post. And he posted the question, what do people think of this? And I said, well, I'm not going to use it too much. In fact, I didn't read your video post, and I've seen very few other people who've done it, and I'm not going to read theirs. And he kind of asked me why, and one of my responses is, it's not interactive. It feels like you're talking to me.
Right.
It feels like you've just put a television in the middle of my stream,
yeah.
And I'm not going to pay attention to that. And that's a very different thing than a Hangout.
Mm-hmm.
A Hangout, it's not just I'm watching it; it's that we're interacting with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same difference between a live play or musical
mm-hmm.
and a movie, and the exact same movie.
Mm-hmm.
They're two very different creatures.
I think we saw an example of that. Anybody who's ever done TV knows that doing live TV is way, way easier than doing live to tape. Because when it's live to tape, you can make mistakes, and if you do, you have to start over and you have to do all that stuff. Whereas live, everybody can just forget about all that stuff.
Right.
And just be yourself and interact, and the new feature is like live to tape, because when you go to record one, you're like, oh, I screwed up, I'm going to do it over, and next thing you know, you're tongue tied and it's frustrating. When you're on a Hangout,
yeah,
but you can also look.
And
you can also look at,
searchable as well, so you'll have to put all this text in there anyways to have someone find what you really want to talk about, right? So.
Yep.
Mike, you're right. If I do a show that's recorded, it would be 2 days before I had it up. This thing, when I say, okay, thanks everybody, have a great one,
mm-hmm.
and then click stop, I'm going to go to the thing, and I'm going to click upload, and in
mm-hmm.
about 40, because I got like 10 megabit upload, and so it'll be up within an hour. They can watch it, versus a couple days if I was editing it. What a hassle that is. Yeah.
That's right.
No, but this is you're completely moving to a different area here. If you go back to Alan's example, Alan, you explain then how is it different than how interactive do you get when people put posts and comments? You don't have any interactivity there either.
You do have a little bit more interactivity because, as I kind of said at the time, you've got this streaming past you. It's active. You're seeing the stream actively happening, and you actively respond to it.
And
how we deal with things that we read is very different than how we deal with things with a moving picture.
Right, and
but if you, I totally agree with what Mike said about the fact that you can be much more persuasive and much more real if it's on video as opposed to typing. So that point is definitely true.
And I agreed with that. I agreed with that.
So then you look at the post.
You have to get me to watch the video in the first place, and I'm not going to do that.
Look at the post. You write a post, and you wait for X amount of time for me to put a comment on it. And then you put your reply to it. There's nothing interactive. It's kind of step-by-step deal. Why is it different than leaving a video message, a short one, and then getting a video reply back? It's just as uninteractive as it is with posts. It's exactly the same thing.
It's not. And the reason why it's not is because the way we have conditioned, the way we have evolved, the way we work with the written media is very, very turn-based. If you look at letters to the editor, and I apologize that I'm now stealing a lot of Mike's, it's sounding like I'm stealing Mike's idea because he's kind of inspired me here. When you look at written media, you're talking about letters that could take weeks. You're talking about letters to the editor that, you're going to have things put in the newspaper, and then you're going to have a reply to them. That's how we've always dealt with writing. The way we've always dealt with things visually, though, is real time. It's dynamic. So seeing something on television suddenly becomes non-dynamic. So responding to writing with writing is very dynamic. It's slow dynamic, but it's very dynamic. Whereas responding to video with video is not in any way dynamic, because that's not how we've ever done it before.
Well, we've never done Hangouts before either.
But we have done Hangouts before.
No, we have not like this.
Not like this, but Hangouts like this mimic in a lot of ways, not every way, but in a lot of ways, they mimic real life. They give us those real life cues.
Yeah, but there's a difference between
the argument that we're having right now. We're seeing each other arguing. We're seeing our hand motions, and we're seeing how we're cutting each other off.
Yeah, but here's the difference. One is if you have it recorded. If I see something on a stream, I see that post in 2.3 seconds. I've already read it. It's done. It's gone. Do I want to find out any more about it? If I have to click on someone to watch a 3-minute video just to find out what it was about, I'm not going to probably do it as much. And then it has to become even harder and more creative for me to want to follow that person from that post, right? So they have to get even more creative in their posting videos.
Okay, listen, guys, we're on topic 3. And it's 9:23, so we got it.
I'll be cutting out a little bit anyway.
No, I love it. I mean, it's the McLaughlin group now.
Hey, we made it to topic 3. That's amazing.
I know. We normally, I need advice from whomever, and I'm going to put this out to everyone watching. I want a central chat room that we can all watch, because right now we've got someone started a Hangout just to have a chat, and they're watching our Hangout, but they start a different Hangout just so 10 people can have a chat, right? I've got all messages coming in from all sorts of different posts. I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on this when I can. I've got the Justin TV chat over here, which I'm neglecting, and I apologize. I've got people weighing in on stuff like George Cozy just said, what about chains of Hangouts where one Hangout is connected to the other? Yes, you can do that. It would be a hassle. But just in the same way that if you're watching the Justin feed, you're looking at me and I've got Mike next to me, we're kind of connecting this, and you could have technically up to about 100 Hangouts or about 100 people together. But so I'm looking for advice, and then I'll go to Jeff. I'm looking for advice on the best. So I know Leo has an is it IRC IRC chat? I don't know what's the pronunciation.
IRC.
Both of them are fine.
Yeah. See, that's the problem with Google with the Hangouts. You cannot embed it in anything right now.
Well, you can share, but the problem is I'd like a single chat. I'm trying to figure out if I want to use an IRC chat or what, but I want a single chat thing, a third-party product, fine, but just something that we could tell everybody, we can all monitor, and everyone watching either on Justin or the Hangout or whatever, we can all see each other's things. So we're not in 15 different places.
Well, and I don't have an answer for you, because you and I have been discussing this for weeks now, but I think this is one of the things that I guess answers the question that I asked Mike, is what tools do we need to take this to help fulfill this medium? And I think it's interesting that we're saying that this is something that we need, because that now goes outside the way we interact with people in real life.
But Mike, wouldn't this have been helpful for you when you're doing your Mike, when you're doing your Hangouts that are, you do a Hangout on air, and it's like a show just like this, really. Wouldn't it be neat if everyone had a pop-up chat, everyone watching, and you did? Obviously, you want your private chat like we have here, so we can give cues to each other. But a chat that everyone's on the same page and it's easy, just like Leo has. I mean, we need. I'd love to have something like that. I don't know which way to go on it.
Well,
there's
what you wish for.
The comments following the post in Google Plus. I mean, there's they can use the comment format of that, and
that's
that
a
could
hassle.
be
That's a pain. Then I've got to click. Okay, I got a red box. I'm going to click there. Let me see. Let me go down. Wait for it to load. Hope it doesn't crash. Okay, finally it loaded. Is this the right post? There's 17 different posts. Come on.
The comments on the YouTube feed. You could use it there.
That's not for live. Oh, yeah, but there's a couple of, isn't there? I mean, they're in different places.
But aren't they showing up?
I want a single chat room that people know all the time.
That's what I'm saying. on YouTube.
You're gonna have to put in like XChat or something like that, some other third party.
Yeah, I mean, it's a non-issue. Let's move on to that. Yeah. This is a non-issue. You can easily find a third-party service.
Dan's been asking for this for a month. We haven't.
I'm asking for advice from. I'm crowdsourcing this, and then we'll move on.
It's wasting time on the show to talk about this. Let's move on to the actual.
I have like 10% of the time on the show. It's all about Oleg.
It's just your show, Dan. What do you expect?
I know.
Exactly.
All right. So anyway, if you have ideas, shoot them to me. Okay, Mike. Google Plus etiquette and best practices.
Yes.
You've encountered hundreds of thousands of people on this service. You've seen some folks who are great at it, and some folks who leave those crazy posts. The comments. Hi. A lot of that's a language barrier, and bless them for checking us out. Tell us some ways that make sense and some ways that you've seen that people should change.
Well, first, I have a prepared statement about the importance of etiquette and best practices, because Google Plus, one of its characteristics compared to other networks is that it's not a top-down controlled kind of a thing. The control comes from users for the most part. People's choices about circling, about uncircling, about blocking, about reporting, those are the things that determine what happens when people have conversations. The reason the conversations are so good on Google Plus is because of the behavior of users, rather than Google cracking the whip and like being Big Brother and all that stuff. So it's really important that we all engage in good etiquette, because that's what makes the community better. That's what makes the network better. So the most controversial thing I can say about etiquette, I think, is that blocking people can be very good etiquette. And here's what I mean. And this is a controversial topic because people have an instinctive feeling that blocking is rude, that it's a slap in the face to the person blocked, and that it's a harsh and extreme thing to do. I block about 20 to 30 people a day. About half of them, or a little more than half of them, are spam, just straight up spammers. But I block people for all kinds of reasons. And anyone who wrecks a conversation for one reason or another, I block them. And here's why it's not a harsh thing to do. Blocking a person who ruins a conversation is doing a favor for the thousands of people who are not ruining a conversation, who are watching the conversation and participating in it. And it's kind of like, I like to liken a comment chat to a party at your house. It's by invitation only. And if somebody's drunk and like being rude and screaming at people or doing something really bad, the reason you escort them out of the house and don't invite them to the next party is out of courtesy for your guests. And blocking people on Google Plus is exactly the same thing. You want to have courtesy for the majority. You want the best outcome for the majority of people. And I think if I've been successful at anything on Google Plus, it's that I've cultivated great conversations. And the best tool for cultivating great conversations is blocking. And so it's not rude. There are 90 million people on Google Plus, and by blocking people, they still have access to the other 89,999,999 people. They can still read your posts. Okay, you're not preventing them from reading your posts. They can still comment on your posts on their own stream. They can't comment on your stream, but they can launch their own post and say, this person said this, and here's what I think about it. And that gets to the other point about blocking. The reason people make a lot of rude comments is they're trying to hijack the traffic that somebody else has built up. They're trying to hijack somebody else's soapbox. Most of the people I block who are being rude or doing something that's unpleasant in my comment area have never posted anything publicly. They don't even have a soapbox of their own, and yet they're trying to jump on top of mine. So please, everybody, don't hesitate to block people. You're doing lots of people a favor. You're really not doing anything that bad to the person blocked. And it really improves conversations, and that's what it's all about. The other thing is that people have a tendency to think that once they've posted something, it's set in stone. And in fact, the opposite is true. You can keep editing and tweaking and improving and updating posts, comments, and everything. And you should. If there's new information, if there's new facts that are relevant, throw them in there. If you find an error, fix it. Now you should know that if I post something that has an error in it and somebody shares it and then I fix it, the thing they shared will still have the error. The original, whatever is shared is set in stone. But the thing that's on your stream can be endlessly modified, and it's a good idea. It's good etiquette. You can come in and give people credit and all that kind of stuff. It's bad. I think it's really bad form for people to jump into a comments area and say something completely unrelated. They see a big conversation and lots of people paying attention, so they promote something, or they jump in and have their their point to make that has nothing to do with the conversation. That's pretty rude. Here's something that is very rare, and I would love to see lots and lots of people doing it. And it's something that I try to do. I don't always succeed, but I try to do this. Now, I have lots of methods for finding content. Again, I blog on Google Plus primarily. And I'll find something, I'll find an interesting story, I'll post the story, I put a picture, I put a comment in there. And then what I should do and what I try to do is I go and use Google search to search for that item and find somebody who posted a link to that item before I did. So you just search for the person, it gives you in reverse chronological order. I select search for posts, and then I start scrolling down back in time, back to the beginning, until I get to the point where I don't see anybody posting that item. And so I try to find the first item, and then I credit that person. The reason that's a good idea is if people want to be the first to be notified of a story, they want to circle people who are really good at posting things that are new rather than old. So by crediting the people who are good at posting new things, you're helping them build up their traffic. And that's how it should be. Instead of just the people who already have huge followings, the rich getting richer, we should always be trying to find those people who are doing high quality content but aren't getting the credit for it, and giving them credit so that people can circle those people. And so that's I think just a good practice. It's easy to do.
If I can just follow up on that for just a second. You kind of said people who are generating good quality content. How do you see people who will find a link and just kind of post that link and not actually say anything about it themselves? They're just out to get the link out there. Do you see that as good quality content, medium quality, low quality? What are you looking for when you see people who are posting like that? Or when you see people posting, I guess the better question is, what do you see as a good quality post?
Okay, well, I mean, you could divide posts into two different things. One is here's something that's over there, and another one's I'm typing something and it's my original thought, or here's a picture I took in it. And so I do both kinds of posts. Probably the majority are a combination. So, some event happens, I summarize it, and then I have a comment. My comment is original. The summary is derivative, or whatever you want to call it. And then the link goes to the original story or whatever video, whatever it is. And I think both are great. I mean, the vast majority of content on any social network are going to be repurposed or referred content. Here's a video, here's a story, here's a news story, whatever. What frustrates me, and it's because I spend way too much time online and way too much time looking for content, is that old stuff. I see stuff, if you look at the what's hot list, very little of it is hot. There's stuff that's like 3 years old that people are posting. It's new to the people who are seeing it, and that's why it's on the what's hot list. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if Google Plus is to compete with Reddit and other sites like that for a place where you can go to get the new things, the memes that happen before they become memes, for example, then you want to cultivate users who are good at finding brand new stuff and bringing it in, making the general content available on the site fresh instead of stale. And so, that's probably my own personal value. I like stuff that's new. If I find a news story, for example, and I'm like, wow, I'm going to post a thing on that, and then I find out it's from yesterday, I probably won't post it. Yesterday is too old, because, I love posting things that, hit 5 minutes ago. I think it's really cool. And if you do that constantly, eventually, people want to circle you, and because everything that you post is going to be new to them. So get back to your question. I think both kinds of content are great. Original content can be the best kind, but content that was found on Google News or that was found on YouTube or found on somebody's blog is great as well. But it's just the newer it is, the better it is. And the people who are good at posting new stuff, I think, ought to be credited and highlighted. So
you look for new. The newer, the better. And I find that interesting, because one of the things I like is I also like new stuff in general. But if somebody posts something that's a day old or a couple of days old, I will look at it, usually only if they're saying something about it.
Yeah.
I like it when people link to something, but I like it even more when they tell me why they're linking to it.
Yes, I agree, and that's it. I mean, some people are not good at that. Some people are really good at that, and the people who are good at it, it's awesome. But in terms of just audience satisfaction, the older something is, the higher the likelihood that people have already seen it and you're just wasting their time. Like, that's why I hate Pinterest. Everybody's like excited about Pinterest, and Pinterest is interesting from a user interface point of view. It's an interesting user interface. It's an interesting social network. But I go to the technology section and you get this wall of stuff, and I start running it through. I have these little tests that I do to find out how long something's been around, of sites that I go to that can tell me how old something is, and all of it is old. There's nothing new on Pinterest. Well, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but 99% of the stuff that's on Pinterest is at least a year old.
It's almost a race on Google Plus, right? I'm gonna beat Elgan on this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna beat him.
And
you know what I mean? It's like that, because we're both newspaper guys. I mean, I'm being facetious,
exactly.
But if it's something like, the death today or something like that, then I'll just, with minimal comment, throw it out there, because I knew about it right away. But then some things I'll wax eloquent. And do you find that sometimes, I've talked about this phenomenon before, I'll write this thing I think is this wonderful in-depth piece, or something that's like going to go on the newspaper, and I'll get one share, maybe 3 plus ones, no comments, and then I'll put a stupid picture up or something, and 85 shares, and
Exactly.
Isn't that crazy?
I'll tell you
it's
why.
Funny.
The reason for that is that the silly pictures have international appeal. When you make a brilliant argument, that's going to be lost on people who don't speak English as a first language.
That's a
or
very interesting point.
Whatever.
I hadn't thought of that.
But if you put a picture that's just visual, somebody in Madagascar can look at that and go, "Wow, that's funny," and share it. So it's Google Plus is a very international place, and the stuff that has international appeal is always going to go.
Yeah, for them it's all in Bangladesh. That's where people look.
Yeah, it's the
Dhaka, Bangladesh. I am one of the top 10 people in Dhaka, Bangladesh, which
the
apparently,
pride of Dhaka.
Which Google Plus was saying that I was in. I lived there as a little kid. Great country. I think it was Pakistan at the time. Now it's Bangladesh, and we left. We were evacuated because of the war, and then we went to Bangkok and blah blah blah. But I digress. Okay. All right, let's move.
But basically, it's the kind of deal here is that it's very subjective too, and also if you look at how people write stuff, there's no way I can put out a post that will be as well written as Mike's, for example, or yours, Dan, because you guys are professionals in the deal. So you're already having an unequal situation there.
Well, but you're also it's your second language. You're excellent, but I'd love to read. I wish I knew Russian. I could read your Russian.
It has nothing to do with it. It's just you guys are pros, okay? You guys are pros. This is what you do for a living. And so the other mortals cannot match you in that realm, no matter how hard they try, unless they become journalists. So that's one thing. That's what I'm saying. Plus, the way people look at stuff, like what Alan said, that he looks at stuff that may be old but relevant to what he's looking for, so it'd still be relevant. Mike is more interested in more recent stuff,
Right.
And so the moral for Alan, he was asking what to do, write stuff that's going to happen tomorrow, and you're going to have a lot of circles.
Well, Mike and I have an unhealthy obsession with news. You know, we're news geeks and tech
That's
geeks
what I'm
too,
saying.
but...
So it's all, you know, it's like some guy posted today a comment to me saying, you share the best looking photos now, I mean, and art and stuff. And the reality is this, that I am very, I'm basically very challenged to create graphic material of my own that will look good. I can mess with graphics. I can't create them like designers do. Same thing with photographs, everything else.
But
Okay,
Oleg, look at what Google Plus just gave us.
What?
Oh, here we go again. Oh, I'm waiting. Go ahead.
It's the feature you love to hate.
What, the creative thing?
No, not the creative thing.
The
new
lolcat
meme
thing.
generator.
Oh, no, forget
They've
that.
now given you the power to do it.
Okay.
Mike,
okay.
have you watched the show enough to know that Oleg is no nonsense and not a big fan of silly cat pictures?
No, Oleg's just from Russia, so that's why. But
anyway,
anyway,
I figured that out before you even made this go live.
What I was gonna say was, I definitely have a certain taste in stuff, and apparently this guy has a similar taste to mine, so he thinks that I share good stuff. But so that's what I'm saying. There's just different people having different dynamics about what they like, what they share. I only post the stuff that I like, that I find interesting, and if some people don't like it, so be it. I mean, I've had arguments with people where they would get to the point of being obnoxious in terms of the stuff they call me and things like that. I haven't blocked anybody yet, but I totally agree with you, Mike. I think it's you get to the point where there's nothing else left. I mean, it's just people will get totally ridiculous, and so there's always good and bad stuff in there. But thank you very much for your comments, though, because it's definitely very useful.
Well, just to go further, I mean, economists like to say that there are markets for everything, and this is the best advice that I can give people, which is that don't try to imitate Dan, don't try to imitate Robert Scoble, don't try to imitate anybody. Post the things that are interesting to you, and let people find you who share your interests. Some people are interested in things that have mass appeal, and some people are interested in things that have niche appeal. But it's really important for people to not try to put on a show and not try to publish a publication, but instead just explore and follow your interests. That's really where Google Plus can be incredibly enriching, because when you attract the certain people who are also interested in those things, they comment, you learn from them, they learn from you, you discover new people, you circle them, you learn more. That's really what's rewarding. It's not everybody trying to build following for the sake of following.
Yeah, like on Twitter, exactly. Same thing.
Exactly. It's not worth doing.
And that's where this whole thing with social search, this new thing they implemented, makes such a huge difference, because as more people you connect with on a similar type interest and things like that, then your search becomes that much more relevant as well, using the new Search Plus Your World.
Yeah,
that's true. And I actually had someone block me, a local person who's a good friend of mine, because I post so much. And I remember I joked with Scoble, because I saw on the TechCrunch article that when they introduced the slider, the volume slider, which I don't use, but that's an underutilized thing, like our next topic was. And someone in TechCrunch comment referred to it as the Scoble slider. And I thought that was funny, because really, but as Linda pointed out on the show, he doesn't really post that often. If you look, he only posts a couple a day, 3 or 4 a day, but they keep bumping up because he gets all the comments. And but I post a lot, and so I just overwhelmed this poor girl's stream. And she's a nice girl. I know her locally, and she's still my friend on Facebook, but she blocked me because she didn't realize you could just uncircle me. And so she just, I got the boot from her, and I kid her about it. She doesn't know how to unblock me. I don't care. All right, speaking of go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, but that's another thing. I don't think people should moderate how much they post either. People shouldn't feel like they need to post more or less. Post what you want to post, and then the people who have the bandwidth or do or don't have the time or interest can circle or not circle according, but just be yourself. Don't.
But you should moderate your notifications. You should moderate your notifications. In other words, I've learned, like, I will, if I see some, like, I'll notify you of some things if I think it's relevant to you and you'd find it interesting. But I don't typically notify anybody about a post. I might mention them, and I don't excessively mention, unless I think it's something. It depends. It's a judgment call. It's life's a judgment call. But yeah, post all you want, but don't notify me about your 50 posts a day if that particular post isn't something that you think I would be interested in. I appreciate notifications if it's interesting or relevant to me.
Right.
But some folks will, every time, and it gets.
Or does that mean that next time you post a picture of a cat, you're not going to put my name?
I will absolutely put your name, Oleg.
Okay.
In fact, I even used a 2-year-old to pick on you last week. A cute little picture of my assistant's cute little kid. Okay.
Oleg, I hate to tell you, but I just posted your name next to a picture of a cat, and I'll have that picture up here in a moment.
I would like to invite our 5,000 viewers to post a cute cat picture and mention Oleg.
Okay, just for the record, what I want to say is that when I say I don't create graphics very well, I can certainly mess with graphics programs and do some serious damage to whatever I want to mess with. So Alan, if I was you, I'd be treading carefully there.
Yeah, I would like to invite our 5,000 viewers to mention Oleg in a cat picture. He loves them so much. It would be a nice gesture because his birthday's coming up.
In that case, I'm going to go to Mike's suggestion and do some serious blocking.
Sometime in the next 300 or so days, it's going to be Oleg's birthday. Okay, speaking of, I didn't miss it until it was gone, the incoming stream. But I was just thinking, there's no stream for me for folks who I have not yet circled. And they said that it was confusing. Well, they could have simply said, put a little thing, stream, like people you've circled or people who've circled you.
This is like deja vu. Didn't we talk about this last episode?
Yeah, but our esteemed guest wants to revisit it, so we shall adhere
Well, we
to
have
his
ton of
wishes.
new stuff. Speaking of new stuff, we have ton of new stuff to cover.
What do you think, Mike? We didn't discuss it with Mike last week. What do you think about the death of the horrible, tragic death of the incoming stream?
I'll keep it short. I think that it was nice. It was an okay feature. But I think that most of what people used it for can be satisfied with search. So people want to sometimes people just want a stream of random people that they personally have not circled. And, what incoming showed you were the people who circled you that you hadn't circled. And what search will show you is everybody that you haven't circled. And you can search for terms like Google. If you search for the word "the," you'll get a completely random search of real-time results that satisfies the need to just see what's going on out there. And then you can tweak it and refine it if you want to narrow it a little bit. But I really think that, what I'd love for Google to do is to have a little button that says, okay, give me search results, but show me just the people that have circled me, or show me just the people that I've circled, or both, or show me, I'd love that kind of granularity, because if you had that button, you'd have the incoming stream again.
Anthony, what are you talking? You just put in the text. You said incoming still exists. What are you talking about?
It does.
Am I unmuted? Yeah, I'm unmuted, I think.
Yeah, you're unmuted. You're visually muted as usual. But...
Right. Hi. Well, on the web browser, I don't think there's a way to access the incoming feed still. But if you go to your mobile phone and you use the Google Plus app, you can still see the incoming stream on the Google Plus app stream.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that. A good hack.
You can also,
you can run
which this is separate, but you can also see people that are nearby you that are geotagging the posts. You can see
But you can do that online
stream
now
too.
as well.
Okay.
Desktop version does it as well.
I didn't know that, but
Okay, so Larry Page had a bit of an announcement at the, with I guess the quarterly results, which they kind of missed a target, and so their shares took a little bit of a dive. That's rare for them. But Google Plus now has 90 million users. Have you looked into these numbers, Mike? What are your thoughts?
I haven't, and there's a lot of desire for really good information about usage, about signups, and all that stuff, and we really don't have that information. One of the biggest buried piece of data is how many people are using the service. I suspect that a very large majority of people on Google Plus have never posted something publicly, but have posted things privately. They look at it like Facebook. They like the circles, and what they like about the circles is that they don't have to post publicly. They can, if you're a new user and like, oh, this is a social network, let me add some friends. You add a couple of people, put them in a circle called friends, and then you communicate with those friends. Then I, as a person who doesn't know this person, goes to their profile. It looks like nothing is there, even if they're an active user. So there's this, all of this data that we used to get from Chitika or whatever that service was, most of the data that we've had so far is measuring people who have posted publicly, which again, I believe is a minority of users. So, some number of people have signed up deliberately. Some number of people have signed up accidentally. Some number of people have signed up and actually use the service and consider themselves users. Some number of people are using the service but don't really consider themselves users. Some people are tire kickers, et cetera, et cetera. There are all these different categories of people, and they're all unknown. We don't know the truth about any of these numbers. Anecdotally, I can tell you that it feels like Google Plus is growing insanely fast. I get a lot of people, the rate at which people are circling me personally is growing not exponentially, it's accelerating, the rate at which that number grows. And then I tend to sometimes randomly go to look at 10 or 15 or 100 of people who've circled me recently to see who they are and where they come from. Most of them are outside the English-speaking world. They're not from the US, Canada, UK, Australia, etc. They're from Bangladesh. They're from Swaziland. They're from all over the world, and those aren't the kind of people I would encounter on Facebook, for example, ever really. And so it's really there are a lot of unknowns, but I think we can all rest assured that however many number of people are using deliberately or accidentally, who have signed up or not signed up, all those numbers are going to be growing wildly over the next 2 years at least. And I think that the idea that Google Plus is in danger of fading away like Google Wave did, the possibility of that is somewhere around zero.
And also, I guess they're kind of scamming it a little bit, right? Because now signing up for a Google account will give you, and we're going to get to some numbers with Anthony in a sec, signing up for a Google account will automatically sign you up for Gmail and for Google Plus. And Jesse Stay, a previous guest, the author of Google Plus for Dummies, asked the question, does this mean that, what about the age limit? Because you can get a Google account, I think, at 13, right? But Google Plus is still 18. So
what about the age limit and what about the pseudonym issue?
Well, first of all, they lowered, I'm pretty sure that they lowered it to 13 now for Google Plus.
Well, that was a rumor. I don't think that's accurate, though. Okay. I think that was a fake thing. Do we know, Alan?
Is
your camera off, Alan, or are you eating?
No, my camera's working fine.
Why do I see a cat?
This cat on it at the moment.
Okay.
He's catatonic.
We're being punked.
The tweet that made people aware of this was apparently from an official Google account. It was a verified Google account, so it at least has some legitimacy to it. Exactly how much legitimacy, nobody's quite knows, but part of the reason for that is Google's not actually allowed to say what minimum age limits on things are unless it's over 18. So
they're just not going to enforce it anymore.
Well, yeah.
Unofficially.
Basically. It's not even unofficially. They're not allowed to say.
Why?
The law that sets the age limit at 13 also says that you're not allowed to tell people what the age limit is.
Man, this is crazy.
It is a little crazy, and that's why Google hasn't really made a big deal about it. And the law actually, the guidelines on the implementation guidelines for the law kind of go out of their way to tell providers, okay, here are the steps you need to take to enforce that 13-year-old limit, but not tell people that you're enforcing the 13-year-old limit.
Okay.
So it's kind of convoluted. There's at least the long and short of it is it does appear to be legit, but nobody knows for sure, and nobody can say for sure.
Anthony, you got some numbers, right?
Yeah. So I believe these numbers are from Vic, and I guess 60% engaged daily, and 80% engage weekly. And I don't know if that means that they engage publicly or privately. I would assume that it means they engage publicly or privately. So
I would think it would be privately. That's definitely not the number that engage publicly. Definitely.
Right. I mean, what I meant was that I think that it combines both public and private posts.
Yeah, either one.
Okay, yeah, because I was surprised, Mike, that you said most people don't have any public posts.
Yeah.
No, he's absolutely right.
Yeah, but that's surprising.
Many people circle me. I go in and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
I mean, they have no posts.
They're by definition invisible to us, and so intuitively we see the people who post the most, and we think, well, that's, the average person I see seems pretty active. But if you just go to people's profiles randomly, it's actually very difficult to find people who post publicly, and that makes sense. I mean, the same thing goes for, people are shy about public posts, and they don't have an incentive really. They look at it as a social network to interact with people they already know. Facebook has trained us all to be that way, I think.
Right. How many times do you go to a Facebook page of a person that's not your friend and you can't see it? So, I mean, this is just from my perspective, but I bet you that there's more people posting publicly on Google Plus percentage-wise than there is on Facebook. So
yes,
these numbers are pretty very good, actually.
Okay, so we've covered the White House, and we've covered Oleg's new favorite app, the meme generating text app. Is it just a general text thing? I haven't really played with it. I don't think I have it yet.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
We're talking about the ability to make funny text or something. Alan, you want to tell us what exactly that is? Is it just generally the ability to add? Are you still there, Alan?
No, he's gone.
Okay.
I can tell you about it.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
It's just when you upload a picture, there's an option to add text, and then when you type the text, you can just have it overlay on the picture, and then when you post the picture, the text is on the picture. It enables you to create a very, very common type of meme that you see on Reddit and other places, where you have a picture of something and then the text is the joke, it's the punchline.
Yeah, totally useless feature as far as I know.
Yeah, and if you look at the new, if you go to Reddit and look at the new incoming posts, 20 to 30% of the posts are pictures with text, people trying to create viral memes, and those are almost all created in downloaded and installed desktop photo editing applications. It's a little bit of a hassle to create those. Google Plus has created a way to just type it right into the post online. It's super easy, and so theoretically Google Plus could become the main source for that kind of annoying meme.
Well, but here's the, and I think that's kind of what they were doing when they created it. And here is a convenient one that I created in just a couple of minutes based on a photo that Denny Gursky provided of his cat watching this very Hangout.
It took you that long couple of minutes?
This was several minutes ago. I mean, you can go look at the stream for it if you want.
So he's endorsing Apple products.
Apparently.
But I think that's kind of what they did when they're trying to do this, is to be able to be the new meme generator. But there are lots of sites now that let you take stock photos or some of the most common meme photos and add your own text. There are a lot of them out there these days, so it's gotten far, far easier. And the method they use to do this is, well, I don't know. In this case, I kind of agree with Oleg. There really isn't much purpose of this, and I wish they would spend their energy doing something a little bit more productive.
Absolutely.
I like logcats.
Who posted this text? Did you do this or did Denny do this?
I didn't do it.
No, the text is
did
what
Denny
I created. Denny provided the picture.
And you added the text.
That's a picture of the current Hangout, right?
Using the Google Plus tool.
Alan, you should enroll in some sort of a spelling class.
Okay. Oleg, you really need to get in touch with your inner lolcat. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I mean, I think the larger point is that in real life, people actually do this thing. And Google Plus, I think, was smart to just make it super easy for people to do what they were going to do anyway. And it gives the network an advantage for people who are interested in generating memes. I think it's all good. I personally have no interest in participating in any way other than the picture I just posted, the screen capture I just posted of the cat watching us. But yeah, I personally have little interest in it, but I think it's great for Google Plus in general.
I think my biggest problem with this is that I think it's a clever feature. I think it's one that they should have let other people provide using an open API. I think my
not that you're biased in any way.
So Alan, let me get this straight. This putting some silly text on the screen is a useful feature, but the little video recording that could actually be useful, you don't think much of that.
Did I say that I thought this was useful?
Well, what did you just say?
I said that I agreed with you that it's one of the most useless features, but I think it's cute. I think it's cute, and I think it's something that they should certainly allow, but I think they should have allowed an outsider to do it.
All this stuff, it makes it more mainstream instead of, this started out this started out as a sausage factory of nerds and geeks, and now it's becoming more mainstream.
Wait, whoa! You just called memes mainstream? Come on!
I think lolcats are mainstream.
Lolcats are mainstream?
Yeah.
They are. I can have cheeseburger.
They are utterly geeky.
Oh, I don't think so. I think my mom would laugh.
They're mainstream.
My 73-year-old mom would like that. Funny
Alan,
pictures in general, not necessarily lolcats, but humorous pictures. My dad, he's 73 too. He sends me quote unquote funny pictures, and lots of anti-Obama
lots
stuff.
Lots of people do it, and that's in the mainstream.
On the TV
show, he's not doing any of this stuff. Okay. So
we want more people in. We want this to become the place, right?
So
you got to have all these things that some people think are silly and other people enjoy.
And I certainly am glad that it's here, but I think they did it the wrong way.
Well, that's what I don't get. But the video part, you don't think it's you're glad that they put it in? Is that what you're saying?
I think they could have done video a different way too. I mean, my arguments about video have more to do with how useful I think it will be, and I don't consider it all that useful. I don't consider this all that useful either.
Can you put your camera on, because I have a picture of a cat whenever you're speaking, and people are going to wonder if this is someone.
That's Alan. Yeah. You just start to see him.
You were about to say something, Mike.
But Alan raises another issue, which is where are all the third-party things? I mean, I really would have assumed that by now we'd have all kinds of stuff going on that other companies are doing. I mean, we have some great browser plugins and a few other tools, but for the most part, this kind of functionality is not being provided by third parties. And I think that I suspect that the hang-up is on Google's side in providing the kinds of tools and APIs that would be necessary to do this kind of stuff.
It is completely on Google's side. I mean, as a developer, I can tell you they're not giving us the access to write to a person's stream yet.
Intentionally so.
There are legitimate reasons for them.
Man, we keep losing Alan. We're going to do a PayPal button to get Alan internet.
But I think
Alan, you there?
Really, you lost me. That's kind of odd.
You're back. Go ahead.
I'm here. Do you think
it's easier to win arguments with him that way, though?
Well, this one is pretty easy. Google themselves, I talked to some people at Google, and they said that, because of the evolving nature of Google+, you cannot create an API that will be functional later if you continually change the product itself, which is totally legitimate. It's not just somewhat legitimate.
No, it's total nonsense. It's total nonsense. It's total nonsense. No, it's total nonsense, and here's why. They have a dozen or so developers that they are currently working with that go that. These guys know how to do they know how to do API versioning because they've done it for all their other products.
Yeah.
Okay, and finally, we know that there's an API because your phone uses it. Okay, and your phone isn't automatically going to get upgraded to the next version when they switch APIs.
Isn't this what that leaked memo?
These are all solved problems. These are nonsense.
Isn't this what that accidentally
posted
thing
was
about?
With all due respect, Alan, I'll take his word because I agree with them.
With all due respect, that might be the public party line. That is nonsense, however, and these guys know that it's nonsense. Now, there are legitimate reasons why they're blocking write access. The biggest legitimate reason is they don't want crap. I'm allowed to say crap on a Hangout on air, right?
The FCC is not going to yell at me, yeah.
They don't want crap.
Alan's going to be really angry when he watches this back and realizes how frequently
if that was the case, they wouldn't have any API, period. Why would they have a semi-API type environment if that was the case? They would just say, we're not doing API because we don't want crap. And that would be the end of the story.
Well, but that would also be the end of Google+.
Not necessarily.
That is kind of what they've said so far.
Not necessarily. Apple is doing it all day long. Do you see the end of Apple yet?
Apple's also, riding heavy censorship on all of their apps.
That's what I'm saying.
There's still plenty of crap apps. But look, the better example is they don't want to go down the road of Facebook. It's really what it boils down to. They don't want people having a lot of these outside apps posting garbage to your stream and giving a bad name to them.
You cannot write an API for something that doesn't exist yet. It doesn't work like that.
They have an API!
Yeah, I agree with Alan. There is an API out there, but it's internal, and they're just using it for their own development.
But it's an evolving thing. They can't just release it to the public when they're not ready for prime time. That's all I'm saying.
You can say that it might not be ready for prime time, but it's out there. It's used. Your mobile phone uses it.
Right.
I'll make a quick observation, and let's move on. The thing is, I don't think anybody, least of all the folks at Google, really anticipated that this whole project would take off the way it has, especially like Hangouts and stuff.
One second.
Just look at the Hangouts right here.
It's evolving.
You deal with people from Google directly?
It really is evolving like crazy. Oleg is right. Alan's right, and Oleg are right.
No, Alan's wrong. Oleg is right. Mike, do you deal with people from Google?
A little bit, but not too much. I don't have any.
Do you know anything about this topic in terms of actually from the inside view?
I don't cover developer issues, so no. I don't.
Wise man.
Thank you. I agree.
But no,
with that,
this project,
I have to leave.
Google Plus doesn't necessarily look anything like it's going to end up looking. So Oleg has a point, but Alan has a point. Like, come on, how long?
Have a good weekend, Alan.
Throw us a bone.
I apologize. I need to leave. Mike, it has been a pleasure talking to you this evening.
Alan,
thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for the cat picture.
Thanks,
the cat picture is not mine. That actually comes from one of our viewers. I just added the text.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Denny. We appreciate it. That's our secret informant over there. No, I'm just kidding. Our secret cat picture provider. Okay, so all right. The next thing we got here, hashtag autocomplete. Any thoughts on this, Oleg, Mike, or Jeff, or anybody?
I'll let Mike take it. He's more involved.
Well, I think it's a great feature for people who use hashtags. It's probably somewhat inevitable. It's very convenient. Personally, I don't like hashtags at all, and I've had a lot of arguments about it. To me, hashtags are a workaround for a network that has bad search. It's a way for people to circumvent bad search and to circumvent the lack of organizing and categorizing of content. Personally, I think the best solution is always good search.
True, but it's quicker. It's quicker to just be able to click on something, and I'm going back to my. It's quicker to just be able to click on something than to have to type it in the search thing. And
it's
like
what
Jeff Jarvis does this a lot in Twitter.
Yeah.
No, some people do it, some people don't. But
that's the problem with it. That's the problem. When you click on it, it's easy to click, but what you get is only part of the story.
Right. But also going back to what Mike said earlier about blogs, which are where I think hashtags do have a presence. Like Mike was saying, that there's differences between regular blogs and Google Plus blogs, and I think one of the differences is the dates, for example, where it's chronologically sorted. If you had a hashtag with your blog name as one posting on every single post, and then with the date and year, for example, then you could then do a search for that blog, with those two hashtags, and you would actually get relevant results in chronological order, not chronological, but grouped together by, for example, you know what I'm saying, Mike?
Yeah, I do, and I understand why people want to use it, but I just personally don't like them at all. One of the problems is that there are people who are really into hashtags and put 20 hashtags on their posts, or other people will put one hashtag. The majority will put no hashtag.
Right.
And so when you're actually using hashtags, you don't know what you're getting. You're getting part of the story. Whereas search, Google search, is very powerful. You can do a search grab the link, post the link in if you want to do that sort of thing. You can't do the kind of thing you're talking about right now, but it's the world is more aesthetically appealing without hashtags.
Right, I agree. I know that. Did you notice what Guy Kawasaki does? He actually posts the day and the number for his post for his own reference. So he's kind of using a pseudo hashtag. He's not making them hashtags, but he's making it so he can do a search later on.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. And Anthony points out that it's helpful to kind of keep everybody on the same page, I guess, because it'll suggest the one that everyone's using right now.
The other thing about hashtags versus searches, sometimes you might be writing something out in your status in your stream or whatever, and you put blah 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 blah, but you're talking about something, but you don't specifically say that. So like maybe I'm talking about the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs. So I'm talking about the NFL, but I didn't put NFL in my sentence. I said, the Baltimore Ravens are in the playoffs, exclamation point. So I can put the hashtag NFL, even though I didn't include NFL in my sentence.
Yeah, but you could use
people are still
NFL
going
as
to be
the
able to
word.
find
Like Mike said, search would pick it up.
Yeah, but he's pointing out it could be creative. Like you could put,
I think hashtags are just look nicer, I guess, is.
And that's
I see what he's saying. It's sort of like the way I'll use, like sometimes I'll put for humorous or dramatic effect, I will use the hyphens to block out, to cross out the text, and then replace it with something else. But like say, you might like when the PIPA and the SOPA thing, both guys said that they're gonna postpone any action on it. If you could have just posted like, I love this song and the walls came tumbling down or something, and not really, and then just put the hashtag SOPA to make the point that that's what you're referring to, but it's funnier that way. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, and
it's just a different way to make a point,
for example,
to be creative.
If you ran a marketing campaign and you had a number of posts dealing with a particular marketing campaign for business, then you could easily put a little hashtag on it, so you can then easily see those posts dealing with that particular campaign. So it does have some uses, but for the most part, I agree with Mike, because some people put 10, 15 of these different tags. It just becomes like a horrible looking Twitter post or something.
It's kind of ruined Twitter to a certain extent. I mean, Twitter is, because of the character limitation, people use hashtags to make a point, to use humor, and it ends up the collective effect is like it's code or something.
Right. It's almost
a loss of clean speech.
The best use, Mike, I've seen is with Jeff Jarvis, where he will come up with, because he's so creative. He's such a wonderful, entertaining, intelligent guy. And it was the story about the stupid reality show. And so he came up with, veterinarians, and I came up with Redwood Whisperer, ideas for silly reality shows that would be boring. And he had a hashtag, boring reality shows, or something like that. And so people all over the internet, and it became a trending, whenever he does one of these, it becomes a trending topic. And so it was a way for anyone to weigh in. And then if he reshared it, you would see it on his stream. But if you were just curious to see the funny ones people would come up with, you could just click on that hashtag.
But then you need to know it, though. That's the deal.
Right. It's still, it's a niche. It has niche appeal and niche usage, clearly.
Yeah. But, so it becomes almost impossible to, there's so many different things that, it cannot be mainstream. It has to be a specific thing for a group of people that know what it is.
Right. I saw this at Chime In did this. That was a service I used initially. Very rarely would go back, but it just became a hassle because when you post, you've got to go through this mandatory. Have you used it, Mike? Did you play with Chime In a little bit?
I've looked at it and kind of wandered away. I see what's his name, the main guy.
Yeah, he's on here. He's I guess a serial entrepreneur type guy.
Yeah.
Bill Gross, I think, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice idea, but I think it's kind of a hassle because they have a limit on the size of the post you can do, and then you got to fill out this. It was kind of a hassle. I don't know if it's going to last. but hopefully, there's lots of room in the tent, right? Okay, so
not that much.
Let's. He's the eternal optimist, Oleg. All right, let's bust through some of these things because we're way over. Post from Google search results and ask on Google from regular search results. Any thoughts on these things? Anybody?
I think it's cool. I mean, I think I like the fact that you can, if you have a question, you have an option that says, ask on Google Plus. That's cool. I mean, I think it's a nice feature that people may. Have you ever used the sort of the Yahoo or whatever it is, the Ask feature?
Ask.com?
Yeah, I mean, you always get the worst answers on those things.
Sometimes you'll get one if they can vote them up, but a lot of that's just those content farms.
Yeah.
Thank God Google has diminished their perceived value in their search engine.
Yeah.
And then I guess updates to mobile, the What's Hot stream, Mike's favorite. Yeah. And who was +1 to post? I guess it's just complicated. The one thing I would like, and Mike, I bet we're 100% on this. God, I would kill to be able to, if I'm looking and I see something really interesting that just came in from Reuters or AP something, and I was like, oh man, I want to share this on my phone, and it sucks. The post, you just do the link. I want to be able to share it, and I want to be able to have it go there and put the little picture. God, I'd kill for that feature. And Oleg and I got into this because he said you can't do it on mobile, but I don't see what interface I'm using controls what their server's producing for the post. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'd love to be able to do that. So now basically I won't post from my phone. I think I did last night. And I even apologized. Said, I'm sorry, I'm posting from mobile. This is going to look like crap. And then I wait till I go home and do it.
I'm the same way. Part of the problem is that they don't have. Part of the problem is that the apps are not good. They're clunky. There's a new performance improvement for the iOS app in the most recent iteration. That was welcome. But where's the iPad app? I think, and where's the Android tablet app? I think that tablets and social networks are just the dream combination. Facebook's iPad app is horrible. It's really unpleasant to use. And some people like it. I don't like it at all. And what Google does now is they have the same app. They expect you to use the phone app on a tablet, and on the iOS platform you have to hit 2x, and then you just get a big jaggy version of the little tiny phone app. It's terrible. There's so much you could do with touch tablet and social networking, and it's not being done. And I really, really would love to see a really good Google Plus tablet app.
Yeah, I think that probably will do it. I think the first thing they need to do is they need to get the functionality to be identical. I mean, so you can do on the phone, like Dan mentioned, you cannot do a post the same way as you can do on, when you share a post, same way. You cannot even right now go and do a +1 on a comment on the phone, which obviously you can do on regular. And so to me, that's one of the main things they should at least start with first, is to match the phone app to be like the regular app. The regular browser app, and then they can go into obviously having. Well, we'll see. It's possible if they come out with their own tablet, like they've been talking, and it should come out sometime this year. Maybe perhaps at that point, that's what we're going to see. Then we're going to see an app for Android tablet, and the fact that they're being slow on the iOS. That's kind of self-serving and understandable. I think they're doing okay on that. I'm sure all the iPhone users don't think so, but I'm an Android guy. But at the same time, they definitely, they need to get things to be congruent. It's just like what they've done with Google Apps for domains versus regular Google Apps. Finally they're getting everything to the point where you have a single login, and you have all the apps, the features and stuff are pretty much, they're getting them close to be almost identical. And that's what they need to do with Google Plus, I think.
Yeah.
All right, hey guys, I have to eat dinner, so
go, Jeff. We're almost done anyway. Go. Thank you for being here, buddy. Appreciate it. All right. Our last topic is just a sort of a general tech topic here. I guess it looks like more shutdown announcements. Social Graph API, Picnik, Google Sky Maps, Google Message Continuity, and some other acquired software. I guess this is sort of an interesting thing. It's really been a pretty dramatic year, first year, with Larry Page as the CEO.
Yeah.
A lot of beloved, but like the incoming stream, not heavily used things, and they're sort of focusing on their core, while at the same time, I guess, freeing up resources to devote to their new push, this new social integration thing. It's really it's a big deal. And
I think they're doing a great job. The problem is with some of these features like the silly text or the antlers and things like that, I just question, where their priorities are. I think they're doing a bang-up job, but it seems like some things that they're doing, just to me, it doesn't make sense. Why they're bringing up some of these features that are, the incoming stream I can understand. It was well-intentioned, didn't quite work out, so I don't fault them for that. But some of these other features, when you have these stupid antlers on the screen, and you cannot +1 on your phone a comment, it doesn't make sense to me how their priorities are.
He's not a big fan of the Antler app, Mike.
Yeah, it's he just doesn't like it when he's not invited to play their reindeer games, I guess. But the larger pictures, this is really the Steve Jobs playbook, and Steve Jobs has always been a hero of both the Google founders. One time, the Nike CEO asked Steve Jobs if he had any advice for Nike, and Steve Jobs' famous advice was, you make some really good stuff and you make a lot of crap. My advice to you is get rid of all the crap and put all your attention on just the cool stuff. And that's what Google is doing, finally. And I think it's all good. I'm really impressed with Larry Page's leadership as a CEO. And I think they're doing the right thing. The part of this that most people fail to appreciate, however, is that in addition to eliminating things that are not worth their time, they're also combining things into single products. This business about people being automatically signed up for Google Plus or Gmail that hit today, when they do any sort of password and username for Google, it misses the point. The point is that you become a Google user. When you have a username and password, you're not a user of this, that, and the other thing, or 1, 2, or 3 things. You're a Google user, and all of the things that they have that are available via passwords are features instead of products now. That they're moving to a world where, and in that sense, they're more like Facebook. When you sign up for Facebook, you get messages. Now, messages in Facebook is clearly a feature, not a product. It's a feature of Facebook. It's there. It's right there, fully integrated into Facebook. You can send and receive email. You can send and receive messages on the network, and it's a feature. So what's happening is that Gmail is becoming a feature of Google in the same way. And I wrote a column about this, where if you follow the trajectory of their current plan, Google will eventually have only one product. And that product will be Google Plus. You can search, you can do email, you can do collaborative office documents, you can shop, you can do all these things on Google Plus. And all of these things are features of Google Plus. That's the part that people journalists are very slow to acknowledge that's what's happening. This integration of social signals into Google Search with Search Plus Your World, this is nothing more than than an evolutionary development of the once disparate services into a single service. And this is an exciting change. It's a radical change for Google. It's completely 180 from where they used to be, where they were just throwing new products out the window that were disconnected from the other products. So it's pretty cool to see, and it's pretty much all good as far as I can tell.
I agree with you, and I just got 2 comments. I'm trying, while you were talking, I was going through the things. I got one complaint. Why do you send people to Justin TV and then ignore the chat? So I apologize. I've got so much going on. I'm trying to keep track of all these things and listen to the conversation. So if they just suddenly, if Mike stops talking, then I can have some idea what he just said, to, rather than repeat something or whatever. So I apologize. I usually come on after, and when I can, I look. That's why I want to have a central chat for this sort of reason. There's all these different conversations going on, and apparently we've been invited to Matt Gibson's Hangout after this show, but I imagine all of us are going to have to probably pee at some point. And then George had an interesting suggestion along what you were talking about. Should Google post a first published by timestamp? That's an interesting thing. The first like maybe not prominently, but like when you click and it says view ripples, it's kind of the sub menu to say the first person to post. That's an interesting. I don't know if it's a good idea, but it's an interesting idea.
It's a tricky problem. It's a harder problem than it sounds like, and in fact, they already have a problem with the ability to share. If you recall, when they first rolled out share, so let's say, Dan, you posted something, and then I decided to share it with my circles. So I would take what you shared, and my comments and your post would both be shared originally. After a month or two, they changed that and said, okay, when I share something, and then somebody shares that, they only share the original post, not the comment that went with that post. Okay, so this is a problem because I'm an editorialist. If you post something and you say, oh, here's my opinion on something, and I post an opinion about your opinion, okay, and then somebody wants to share that, they may want to post, they may want to share your opinion, or they may want to share my opinion, but the share functionality only shares your opinion. Now, how does this relate to the first post? If a person posts a link with a comment, and another person then a day later posts just a link, and then one day later another person posts another comment with a link, like what's important there? Is it the link? Is it the comment? Is it the conversation? It's really hard to say that there's more value in the very first thing that's posted that can be verified as being the same thing, which is the URL. I think that they'd be better off just leaving it alone. And I think that this is something that I alluded to earlier, which is that users should voluntarily go find the first best post in their judgment that is similar to their own, and then credit that first post. I think that's a better way to do it than having the functionality built in.
Yeah, I did a post on this exact topic. I think what he was trying to say was he was referencing when you were going back and saying you're trying to you try to find the first person to mention that this thing happened and credit that person for being the first, the quickest. That's what he was saying. It's like some way to do that. But I did.
Dig tried to do that. Dig tried to have this thing where you go to post a link and they say, nope, that's already been posted. And it was really problematic. It really narrowed what the definition of what a post was. And it's one of the narrow-minded policy things that ruins Dig. I just don't think that there should be a built-in feature that makes assumptions about whether two things are the same thing, I guess.
I did a post on this topic. I forget what I called it. Something like, this post dies here and now or something like that. And I was trying to make the point that if I find something, I'm trying to comment on it, and then I just I said, but nobody will ever know, because if they ever share it, they're going to go back to the previous version, and this is lost. This ends here and now unless you copied it and pasted it or whatever. I'll try to I'll try to share it with, I'll mention you in a comment on it so you know what I'm talking about.
The workaround is you don't use the share button.
Correct.
And I do this a lot.
If you do a post, let's say you shared this show, right? And then you write this long in detail, like, man, I wanted to expand a little bit on this one topic, and you wrote 7 paragraphs that were really interesting to me about this. There's no way for me to share that. Because
unless you
just
shared
copy
something,
and paste it. Correct, which is obviously a SOPA PIPA violation.
And then you use the comments that
Right.
were associated with that content.
And I
That's
hate when
true.
there's some of the best stuff in the world is on those comments. There's no way to share. It's not perfect yet. It's still in beta, right? So even you can't complain too much. That's what we have.
Well,
Oleg.
considering it's free, you can't complain too much anyway.
All right. Final thoughts, Oleg, before we wrap it up. My God, this may be a record.
with all the negative comments, I still love Google Plus. And I just want to thank Mike very much for his wisdom and enjoy reading his posts and for being here tonight.
Thank you, Oleg. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you to say.
And Anthony, any final words? Anthony is our spokesmodel.
Spokesmodel. No, I don't got anything.
I pick on Anthony because he has just atrocious lighting. He's like E.F. Hutton, you know, the old commercials. He doesn't speak often. When he does, it's smart and intelligent and
booming.
You think you and Alan are shy. You got nothing on Anthony, I think. Anthony's great, and I love having him on. Any final thoughts?
Well, I have one final. I'm sorry. Is it my turn yet?
Yeah. Mike,
Absolutely.
go
Okay.
ahead.
My final thought is to everybody listening to this who's using Google Plus. Step up your use. Don't be shy. Be yourself and really explore the platform. An opportunity like this comes around once every couple of decades where a major company comes out with a really spectacular new medium. And when it's new, it's very different than what it'll be when it's a year or two old. The opportunities are enormous right now for building community, for making friends, for learning, and for all the benefits of a social network. So you'll get the majority of those benefits by being super active. Don't hold back. Be experimental and just go for it, and post publicly and invite comment and just don't be shy. And you can really take advantage of what's possible. And nobody knows what's possible or where this is all going to go, but I really encourage people to get as active as they can be.
That's the thing. See, we get it. And that's why I get so angry, and we've both beaten up on some of these writers. I did this, I forget, I was pretty mean to the guy who said, will the Muppets save Google Plus? And I was like, oh my God, where do I begin? A, they don't need saving. B, you're an idiot. And then he chimed in at some point the author came back and said, well, I don't own an iPad, but I can still comment on Apple's sales figures. And I was like, you haven't publicly posted since July or something, and you're sitting here trashing this thing, and it's just nonsense. Because we get it. It really is innovative. It's a dramatic thing. It's a whole new thing. Hangouts are, but Google Plus is just, I've never been so excited. I can't remember when I was last this excited about anything that was new down the pike. This is like when you first discovered email or something. It's a big, as Joe Biden would say, it's a big deal.
Yes, it is. It is. If anybody is unfamiliar with my past work, they may assume that I'm just a Google fanboy. The reality is that I've been viciously trashing Google for several years about their failed social efforts. I've been very critical about Orchid. I've been very critical about Buzz. I've been very critical about Wave. I've been very critical about their pronouncements about how they're going to make things social. I've just hated everything they're going to do. And all along the way, I've been saying, they should do this, they should do that, they should combine profiles with Gmail, they should do all. And when they came out with Google Plus, it was a shock to learn that they did everything right. And so, my love of Google Plus has nothing to do with the predetermined fanboyism at all. In fact, I've been the opposite in the past. But Google Plus is just awesome, and they really hit this one out of the park, and that's why I'm so in favor of it.
Well, it means more when one of your critics says, "Hey, this was good. You finally made a good movie." So that's exciting, and probably means more to them than some fanboy. I always like to get. That's why I like Alan and Oleg, because they'll sit here and disagree with me and point out when I'm wrong and beat me up, and I know I'm getting a really good conversation and intelligence. So. Okay, I want to thank everybody. The Hangout continues. I'll explain in a second, but I want to thank everyone for watching. It's been really fascinating conversation. This show just keeps getting better and better, and so many great guests lately. And but anyway, this is awesome. So much to talk about. And we'll be back next Friday live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 a.m. GMT. Thanks so much for watching Google Plus Week.